Hey guys, I'm back with another one of my gear reviews. This is a part of my long delayed series of belay device reviews, and this time I'm going to be talking about the Gigi. That's G-I-G-I. I do want to apologize about the lighting here. As you can see, I'm in a different area than I normally am. Seems like all my videos are coming from different places nowadays. This is my friend's house in Seattle, where I tend to spend my time when I'm not working or on the road now. And just wanted to film a few reviews while I have this nice post anchor right here. I'm going to try to keep my head with that light behind me. This is the best lighting I could get, but at least you can still see pretty well in the video. Anyway, so the Gigi right here, this is sort of like the model for Gigi devices, what the Grigri is for brake assisted devices. That's what this thing is. And I made a video about another one of these devices a while ago called the Camp Ovo review. I'll link it down in the description so you guys can check that one out. And in that review I talk about the Gigi, since this again is sort of more or less the baseline for these type of devices. Essentially it's the same setup for both of them. They're each just a metal plate, but there is a big difference with the Gigi that the Ovo doesn't have. First of all, when you're using these types of devices, these are nice when you have really thick ropes, because the slots right here tend to be a bit on the thicker side. So if you have thicker ropes, it helps pulling it through when you're belaying from above. These also are good rappelling gadgets in the canyoneering world and other places like that. So I moved the anchor a little bit higher because it was kind of hard to see. Let me just hook in the Gigi right there. Alright, so going back to the original setup, I get to the top of my pitch, I'm going to clove hitch myself in right there at any point in the anchor. Off belay, pull up my extra rope. And so when it comes to loading the Gigi, it doesn't matter for this one, at least. It doesn't matter which way it's facing. You just take your rope, load it, climber side on top, the normal way. If your rope is thick enough, then you can get away with just doing this as a carabiner block, and so that way you can start pulling rope up, and if the climber falls, then they're going nowhere. However, on these Gigi devices, since there's nothing restricting the carabiner, the big pitfall is this thing could actually flip around, especially on modern day skinny ropes, kind of like this green one right here, and eventually the whole thing would just invert, and then the climber's side would be on the brake strand, and so if they were to fall, the device wouldn't lock in place. So the counteraction for that is you pull the loop all the way down, clip in here in the center, and then clip both these strands, lock it up, and there you have it. So now that the carabiner is sort of involved in the device, you don't have to worry about the whole thing flipping around. Okay, so the really useful part about these devices, and this is why they're very commonly used with guiding, is that it is really nice to belay two separate people on two separate ropes at the same time. This is called parallel rope technique, and you can see how if I'm holding both strands with my brake hand, and I can pull the green one, then I can pull the blue one, and my other hand is also separating the two, and you can belay two people up to you with relatively little friction, and you can keep up with two separate climbers running up, a moderate pitch. It's not exactly the best thing to do on like super easy stuff like 4th class terrain, because usually the climbers tend to move so fast that you can't really keep up with belaying two people at the same time, and then that's when you got to switch to a different rope technique. But either way, that's kind of the big draw with these devices, and that's why guides really like using them a lot, is for that ease of two rope capabilities, especially with nice thin ropes like these ones. So that was all with the Ovo, and now I'm going to talk specifically about the Gigi, because there is a big difference with the design of both of these devices. So if I hold these close, you can see, it's actually kind of hard to see in the video, but there's a little ridge right here. Yeah, if I hold it at just the right angle, you can see that little ridge. That's the center bar between the two slots. The Ovo, you can see, does not actually have that little embossment in the middle joint. And so in many cases that doesn't really matter. But the big difference is if you're using your parallel rope technique with two people and then one of them falls. Okay, so this is going to be pretty hard to demonstrate on my own, but essentially if the green rope here falls, there we go. So the green rope is locked off. Pulling the purple rope, I can feel it right now, it's taking a little bit of extra effort, and if you have the actual weight of climbers on there, that can be pretty annoying. And that's mainly just with the center bar not being there. So it just makes it harder to belay up the rope if this other strand is rated. And it doesn't matter which of these strands is weighted. Alright, so moving to the Kong Gigi now, I'm going to load it so that way this bar right here is towards the brake strand. So the climbers are coming up from here, and then the brake bar is right there. Again, clip my locker on that. Clip it to the anchor, and you can see what I mean. What I'm talking about right here is those little climber strands. Here are the brake strands, and the bar is where the locking carabiner is. So now I tighten it up, start belaying my folks, pull a little bit of rope through. There we go. Then let's say purple rope falls. There you go, so I have a bit of weight on the purple rope now. Pulling up the green rope doesn't take nearly as much effort as it did when the ovo was in the system, because that breaker bar helps offset the carabiner a little bit further away from the plate, so it gives the other rope some room to move through. Whereas without that bar on the ovo, the carabiner just gets crushed against the device, and then you just get you just have to pull a bit harder. So you can see how that helps your elbows out a bit. Other than that, both devices are completely the same. And if I was belaying with just one rope, I would do the same deal of clipping all the strands and letting the carabiner go up into the device. And you belay exactly the same like that. In my last Gigi video, which was the camp review, I talked about how even when I'm using two ropes in the system, I like to flip the carabiner around. It would look something like this, where I clip both ropes, clip a big carabiner in. And if I'm using this, usually I like to use a triple action locker there, because the rope rubbing on the barrel of the locker sometimes makes it come unlocked. But this is just demonstration. And so I talked about how I used to do this all the time, even if I do have two ropes. And while in this case it probably doesn't matter too much, it doesn't add too much friction, and especially with that bar, even now without any weighted rope, just switching between the two ropes like you usually do when you're belaying in parallel, the rope just runs a lot more freely than with the ovo, with the carabiner crashing up against it all the time. Anyway, so yeah, I said I used to do this all the time. However, recently I have started to change that now, where instead of using, if I'm using two ropes in parallel rope or in twin rope setups, I'll just clip the carabiner in like this. And then you don't have to worry about it flipping because it's two ropes, and the two ropes are not going to allow the carabiner to invert like that. So that's just something that I personally changed. Either way is fine, but you just want to avoid this technique if you're only doing one rope. If you have a super fat rope like a 10-2 or something, it doesn't matter as much. But with modern day skinny ropes, anything in the 9s, especially mid to low 9s and lower, you're going to want to either flip the carabiner or just have two ropes. So yeah, in closing, I'd say this is my new favorite Gigi type device. I'm sad that I didn't get to use it before I used the ovo, but that bar really does make a difference. I recently got a chance to use this device a whole lot during my rock guide exam, and I really enjoyed having the less friction device for pulling ropes. I did a number of really long pitches, like 50, 60 meter pitches with parallel ropes just to get around groups and stuff. It was really nice to have the least amount of friction possible while belaying up the examiner and my other exam mate, who says that. So yeah, I would recommend the Kong Gigi if you are looking into Gigi devices. The only problem is these are a bit harder to find, I think, than the ovo, but you can still get them at any number of different shops. And if you are looking into rock guiding, specific rock guiding, if you're an alpine guy that every now and again goes into tying into the middle of the rope and halving your 60, it's not really worth it. But if you're doing long pitches of 60 meter rope work, in a vertical rock setting, or if you have really fat ropes that you like to use, definitely look at getting this device. Thanks for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for allowing me to purchase such an item, and I have a few more blade devices that I'm planning on reviewing in the future, and I want to just give you guys a special thanks for supporting me in order to review every blade device that I actually want to review. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.